Hi there, welcome to my class. I'm Dr.P.Ganesh from India. This is my YouTube channel, Dr.P.Ganesh. This is my channel name. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. I keep posting ICT related videos. So in this video, we are going to see how to protect from cyber fraud in the cyber world. We are all living in the cyber world, so it is also comes under cyber security. So there are a lot of cyber frauds are happening around the world. For example, last 1 year alone in US, as per FBI records, as per FBI's survey, around 3.5 to 4 billion US dollars has been happened in the cyber fraud, which is equal to 30,000 crores in Indian rupee. It is not only a single individual persons. So through that cyber fraud, it has been affected by the government officers, hospitals, and big industries, big corporates also has been, they made a huge loss to them also. So in this class, what we are going to see is how to protect from cyber fraud in the cyber world, because we all know that we are all moving into a cyber world. So everyone is nowadays, we are using it through web or mobile app in an internet world. So how to be safe and how you can able to identify the cyber frauds are happening and how you can protect yourself from the cyber fraudsters. So in this class, the main objective is, the first what we are going to see is what is a cyber fraud. We all know that what is fraud. So what's going to be a cyber fraud? That is the first thing we are going to see. And then what are all the different types of cyber frauds in the world? In general, we are going to see 3 major classifications of cyber frauds. And then how to protect from the cyber frauds. What are all the ways and means you can able to protect from the cyber frauds? And then last thing is, there are some process which is a standardized process are available which you can able to block the cyber frauds. Even sometimes if the cyber frauds is going to happen, once you identify, then you can able to block it. So how you can able to block it, how you can able to identify it, what are all the process we have to follow, that we are going to see in that process to block cyber frauds. First, let us start with what is cyber fraud. In this cyber fraud, what the main definition is in the cyber world, online cyber fraud, which is defined as wrongful or criminal deception in the cyber world, either through web or it may be a mobile. So sometimes it may be happened via the web, or it may be happen via your mobile internet connections, which is going to cause for financial gain for them. So this we generally call it as a cyber fraud. The main thing is that wrongful or criminal deceptions through the cyber world by means of web and mobile. Next, we see the types of cyber frauds. There are a lot of ways the fraudsters, they are trying to do the cyber frauds in the internet scenario. But here, majorly, we will be focusing on 3 major cyber frauds in that category. The first one is email compromise. Everyone is using an email. So the compromising the email, which leads to an unauthorized transactions, and they may steal your data. For example, you may be getting a lot of catchy emails which is stating that you have won $1 billion. So this company is trying to give some $1 billion to your account. So this is a way they will trying to catch the attentions of the people, to trap the people. So automatically after some time they will trying to initiate the transaction, or they may trying to initiate some conversations. So after that conversation, then they will try to take your personal data or otherwise your financial personal data. So through that they will try to steal your finance, or it may steal your original data. This is one way of personal email. As well as if it is going to be an industry, in that cases they may trying to access, they may hack your emails with your email credentials. Somebody else may get into it and they will try to change your, for example, if you are working in some office, in that office you may be all that transactions through that email, from the trusted email, whatever the email you have given to a bank or your company, through that mail they will trying to send a message stating that this is my new mobile number. This is the way they will try to change it. Via that they may trying to steal your data, or they may trying to do some financial damages to any single persons. And the second thing is that we are all very much aware that ransomware attack. So there are so many different types of malware attacks also there, but here I'm going to talk about the main thing is that the ransomware cyber fraud attacks. This is some specialized software, so kind of like your mobile phone, or it may be your bring your own devices, your personal laptops. You may be getting some emails, unauthorized and some unwanted emails will come which may attract you. Once you open it, there may be some specialized malware, malicious software will be there. That malicious software which is going to automatically, which is going to install on your device and trying to block access your data on your devices. Then they will try to ask for ransom. So until you pay the money, until you pay the ransom, they won't decrypt your data. You will not allow to use your devices. So they may be getting the money via the cryptocurrencies. This is the ransomware attacks via that ransom, where monies will be looted from the people. Next, we know that credit or the debit card frauds. So unauthorized use of credit or debit card through the mobile or web. We may be heard that there are many people, they will be getting calls from some other people. We want to change your PIN number. We want to increase your credit limits. Through that, they will trying to make a conversation and they will try to get your personal credential, financial banking credential, card credentials. Through that, they will try to take your money from your credit or debit card. These are all the major cyber frauds which is happening around the world, which is the email compromise, and then ransomware, malicious softwares, and then credit or debit card kind of cyber frauds which is happening. These are all the major types of cyber frauds. Now we will go to that. What type of approach we can take to block that kind of cyber attacks or cyber frauds? Gartner has developed one method, that is a CARATA approach to cyber fraud. The CARATA approach to cyber fraud is, it is a continuous and adaptive risk and trust assessment. Now let me explain in detail, which involves, the first one is which is involves assess. For example, we may be considering one organization, or it may be one small office. So in that office there may be a multiple people, maybe 100 to 200 people are working. So first thing is that you need to assess your entire organization. That assess may be a device assess. We know that nowadays bring your own device is a very common thing for any industries. So whenever we used to go to an industry, we used to take our own labs, or we may take our own tabs and our smart mobile phone. So through that we may be connecting to an internet, we may be connecting via our company network, we may be connecting to an external world in the cyber world. So that device, it has to assess. So whichever the device, whether the device is an adaptive risk-free device or the trustable device or not, that we need to assess. And the second thing is that this particular device or this particular person, is having a what type of account, what are the things he is authorized to access that particular part. So office may be having a multiple divisions. So production division will be there, ERP will be there, accounts division will be there, HR will be there, payroll will be there. Likewise, he may be authorized for which are other parts. So that kind of account details. And then session. So it has to be, every person, every user has to be tracked what is their particular sessions. From that sessions, we can able to understand the behavior of the users, whether the behavior is behaving in the normal way or it may be behaving in the abnormality. From that we can able to get our signals. So these are all the basic access we need to do that. The first thing, once we assess the device, account, the session and the behavior of the user and the devices in the particular organization of a network, then we can use our artificial intelligence, ML, machine learning and deep learning. With that we could able to predict what kind of things are happening in that network. We can able to predict the things. And then prevention is better than cure. So once we predict, then we need to make a lot of checkpoints to make that whether he is an authorized user to access all those things or not, that we need to do that. So preventing is an best tool. Whether we lost anything, before the lost anything we have to do it. So next step is preventing the things, and then detect the cyber frauds. Whether the frauds are going to happen or not, it has to be by means of assess, predict and prevent. Then we need to detect effectively before it's happening. So once it is detected, we have to respond it. How fast we have to respond, that way, that how much fast you are responding, based on that you can able to protect from the cyber frauds. This is how the CARATA approach to a cyber fraud. For example, in this Gartner Trusted Identity Cooperation Model, in this identity trusted cooperation model, which will have two major signals, one is affirmative signals, another one is negative signals. In this affirmative signals, you have to see that in the top side, the third party credentials and curated credentials, and then external fragility signals. These are all which will comes under affirmative signals category. Whereas in this negative signal, if you see that external risk signals, so externally if any other signals are coming or any other behaviors are coming, or external attack signals, whether it is coming or not, whether it is internal attack signals coming or internal risk signals are coming. For example, at this point I would like to mention one small example. You may be using some e-commerce website. For example, I may be using Amazon or I may be using a Flipkart. So normally I used to go to an Amazon web store, or I may go to an Flipkart online portal. Once I go there, how my purchasing style, how my purchasing behavior, I may be interested on my gadgets. So I used to look up the gadgets. So I should not take decisions immediately. So where I have login and which place I have login, and whether I'm using the same credentials, whatever I have used, whatever the addresses I have used, whether it is going to be same or not. If any other fraud wants to use that one, so immediately he will get into it. As quickly as possible, he will fill in the basket, and then he will try to change the destination, the delivery location, on trying to do the transactions. In this kind of misbehavior in that model, it means that external risk signals. In this kind of behaviors, if it would have been identified, immediately our system has to identify, and it has to do some elevated credential authentication process has to be initiated. That is where we can able to stop or block the cyber frauds in that category. So it should be a continuous process, and as well as it is going to be adaptive risk and trust assessment continuous process. So this is a CARATA approach for cyber frauds. Next, assessment should be a continuous, as I said. It is not going to be a whenever he used to log in, just it has to do an assess, and then after that if you leave, it will lead to a lot of opportunity for fraudsters to do some frauds. So this continuous assessment may be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It should be a continuous process. For example, in our day-to-day life, if you have a Gmail account, if you are logging in your own devices, it won't ask any other extra credentials. Just you can use your username as well as the password. That is the maximum. Suppose you are going to log into some other devices, then automatically it will go for a two-step verification. It may be sending an OTP or it may give an authentication calls to the user. This is where it has to rise up at the next level. So in that part, the continuous assessment should be there. So define the events. So what is the event which is going to be there? So defining the events during the user's journey. Maybe if he is going for an e-commerce website, so when it log in till it log out, so what is the journey? And we need to split up into multiple events. What is the purchasing behavior, and what is the address he used to use it, and what kind of where he used to log in, and what type of system he is going to use it. So all these things we have to make as in different events during his journey, and also make the checkpoints and the signals to the process. So each point of access in multiple methods. As I said, suppose if it is going to find that there is a fraudulent kind of things, you may rise up some other questions. So better you can authenticate your mobile number. We will be sending an OTP to your mobile number, so please enter that mobile OTP number so that you can proceed to a next stage. That kind of ways we need to make it multiple levels of continuous assessment, as well as the trustability we have to evaluate in the system. This is what the Gartner's CARATA approach for cyber frauds mechanism. Now, how to predict the cyber frauds with the help of our AI, ML and DL. So what is a behavior? There are three important components we need to take. One is by basic of data, and then our model designing, and then how to monitor the things. For example, we used to get a lot of data, and then huge volume of data we need to collect it, and then with that data we need to do a analysis with our standardized model, or the time to time we need to change it. Here there are some technologies getting into a picture, that is where the ML and DL kind of things which is going to come. So we need to do some supervised learning or the unsupervised learning. So if it is going to be a supervised learning, we may be giving an clear-cut pattern, so both we know that this is going to be an input as well as this is going to be an output format. Whereas in unsupervised learning, so this can be applicable for some systems, and unsupervised learning can be applicable for some other system. In that cases, it has to make some lot of clusters. If the clusters are totally misbehaved, if the system is totally unpredictable, then we need to put a lot of checkpoints in that. That is where the predictive modeling system. So the data's point of view, the first, it has to collection of the data. For example, if one user is there, that user behavior session, all these things has to be collected with the help of big data, and then it has to be an integrated, how effectively we are going to, how intelligently we are going to integrate. So what is mean by intelligent systems here? Maybe my name is Ganesh Kumar, so I may be living in Madurai. These two data are going to be disjoint in each other, and this is the place I'm living, and this is my date of birth, and college name is there or industry name is there. So our system has to analysis, he is Dr.P.Ganesh, who is living in Madurai, who is working in this university, or he may be working in this industry. This is where if it makes an intelligent sentence, that is where the integration has to play, where the AI has to be an important part. In that analysis, the machine learning is getting into picture. And then these models which will have an use the ML mechanism, whether it is maybe a supervised or unsupervised mechanism. And there are two types of boxes we have to use. One is a black box method and the one is a white box method. So normally in general we are supposed to use here as a white box mechanism. Why we need to use the white box mechanism is here we need to give what kind of behavior it has to be. If anything's the signals, it has to be identified and it has to be dropped properly. So white box mechanism is best suitable for predicting the cyber fraud mechanism, and then the monitoring. And then to monitor that, we need to adapt as well as we need to experiment frequently. So continuous assessment as well as adapting to new scenarios, as well as we need to experiment properly. This is where we can able to predict the cyber frauds using an AI and ML and deep learning. So next is then how to prevent a cyber fraud. So the preventing cyber fraud is very important task in making of cyber to block the cyber fraud mechanism. For example, the first one is identity and access management using a multi-factor. For example, if you are going to log in, if you are going to use an ATM, so automatically first it has to authenticate it, and then authentication process, and then what you are the user management and what is the credentials of the users. So that way who I am, the user has to be evaluated who I am. So what are all the ways and means we can able to make it, that is where we can able to block the cyber fraud. At the same time, we have to take care of our customers' experience. It should not make the customer to get bored into the system. So identity and access management using a multi-factor mechanism. And the next preventive method is the firewalls. By making a good and effective traffic management system, if you have an identified, so when the network itself, whenever it comes input traffic as well as output traffic, so both the things, it has to identify any other unwanted and any other bad traffic from the cyber world. There itself it has to stop and protect it, which will make more than that, which is going to prevent the cyber frauds. And then the third important mechanism is say no to automate. It means that many people, our gadgets, once it comes, it makes us so lazy. Even the bank transactions, if any other OTP comes, then automatically install the software itself, which is going to read the OTP and it is auto-filling it. So better to avoid. Sometimes it may be saying that automation process which will make our transactions are more faster, but at the same time there are some possibilities for the cyber fraud may happen. Unless until your systems is not that much safe, then automatically there is a possibility will happen. Say no to automate. So this will identify and protect from the scripted attacks. If any other scripted attackers trying to make it, then they can easily come into it. So better try to say no to automate process. Next is then detecting a cyber fraud. How to detect a cyber fraud? One is then the types of different malwares. There are a lot of malwares which is available in the cyber world. So use a proper malicious software to detect any other viruses, trojans, or any other, if it is going to come into your system or not. Try to be, your system should be more safe and things. And the second important thing is that the actions. So how fast you are going to act if any other different behaviors from the user point of view. So which is going to evaluate the high risk actions. At the same time, the customer experience is much more important. For example, suddenly if one person has login from Nigeria, so what will happen? Many cyber frauds which is coming from Nigeria. So if it comes, then you have to rise up your level to ask the too many questions, or you may be authenticated at multiple levels. So that kind of actions, immediately it has to taken care. As I said earlier example, the same example, if I'm going to do some Amazon or Flipkart, if my normal user behavior is, maybe I'm Ganesh Kumar, my user behavior maybe normally I used to go there and search for some of the products. I take a longer time, see the reviews, and then I will select an items, and then I will 2-3 items I used to compare, and then finally I'm going to decide and keep it in a basket and taking off a day or 1 day of time, then I may be purchased. This is my behavior, so it has to be understood by the system. If suddenly my same login, somebody else has hacked my account, if we come into it, see if any other fraud, as quickly as possible he want to finish off this task and he has to leave it from the system. So that kind of very fast actions are happening, then immediately it has to be evaluated as a high risk actions. At the same time, sometimes the user may be a real person. That time we should not make the people do so much hard. And the third thing is that very important thing is that relations. You need to monitor the relation points. As we know that the graph theory. So you have to monitor and you have to relate it from behavior side, from the session side, the user point of view, as well as the network point of view. From that you need to make some clusters also. So the relational model design, graph theory we might have studied the graph theory. So how to map it? So what are all the behavioral mapping? What are all the user sessions mapping? So I may be daytime, I may be always do all my Amazon or Flipkart purchases through my daytime, maybe my evening time I may be doing. All of a sudden, if it is going to happen at the midnight from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock, and that will log in from some other country, unusual location, and making it very fast transactions and making it a huge purchase, then it has to be a model design is too much, it is a deviating from that, then it has to be identified. So that is where our model has to be designed in that way to identify. It has to correlate the data points, one data points to another data points, or it may one signals to another signals, and then which is going to create a checkpoints. So as I said, if it is going to do some unusual behavior, we need to create some extra checkpoints for validating his financial transaction or validating whether he is an authenticated user or not. Make a query. That query may be via the mobile phone, or it may be via your email, and then analyze it and then finalize the things. This is how you can able to do that, detect it. And once you detect it, then you have to react very fast, because the fraudster should not realize that you have identified or not. Then you have to finalize, and immediately you have to get into an action. For that, your response model should have get an additional information. You should get an additional information. For example, if it is going to happen something, it is wrong, it is deviating from that regular pitch points and the data points, then you need to get some additional information. So what is your email ID? What is your authenticated registered email ID? What is your pet name? So whatever the questions you have asked, the security questions you have asked while during an registration process, that kind of getting some extra additional information. And then elevated authentication. In this elevated authentication only, you can authenticate via, suppose he is a login to some other Linux based systems or Unix based systems. Normally I used to log into via the Windows based systems or Mac based systems. Then if it is going to happen, then you need to elevate the authentication process. So I may be giving some one OTP to your registered mobile. So from that you just authenticate yourself. That way you have to elevate it. And then manual review has to be happen. So ask him to feed that data, so that OTP value or email, by clicking that link, it has to be authenticated. Likewise, we have to make that manual review. Once all these things process happen, then we can easily identify that whether he is an authenticated user or he may be a fraudster, then immediately they block the transaction. At the same time, we have to be very careful in that on what reasons you are blocking the transaction. You should not reveal in that. For example, your mobile number, whatever you authenticated, it's not a correct OTP number. That way, if you give it, then the fraud may trying to correct that error. So in that cases, without saying any reasons, and we have to block the transactions and block the users immediately. This is where how fast we are going to act. At the same way we can able to solve this issue. So this is where we can able to react. And at last point, once you identified he is a fraudster, then immediately you try to report. As per the cybercrime policy, you have to do it for an actions, because somebody else should not get into trouble. I think in this model, in this video, we have discussed about what is fraud, what is an cyber fraud, and then what are all the different types of cyber frauds are happening, and how you can able to protect yourself from the cyber frauds. So that is where CARATA approach by the Gartner, that mechanism we have explained. In that process, there are some assess method is there, and then process, and then detect, prevent, and then detect, and then block, and as well as you have to react. In this we have discussed about the many process. I hope you have understand this concepts for how to protect from the cyber frauds. Hope you understand your concepts. If you have any questions, you please drop into my comment line. I'm happy to respond to you. Thanks for watching my channel. If you are not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon for my future videos. Thank you. Have a great day.